Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program. Information on the program available at thisweekinamerica.us. Legacy is a story of mankind's sojourns through history. It describes one man's incredible journey through several lifetimes as far back as 1,000,000 years. His blunders, his triumphs, and the many worlds and places where these experiences took place. 5 episodes, 1,000,000-year-old romance, space battles, intrigue, interdimensional scientific and spiritual principles of life, today's false religious beliefs and other secrets exposed in detail, described as a must-read for every truth seeker, a novel 30 years in the making. The Legacy series author is Robert Maxxim, and it's his incredible journey through several lifetimes as far back as 1,000,000 years. As a child, Robert experienced several sleep-time visits to other worlds, witnessed countless alien craft. These experiences continue to date in both wake and sleep states. Robert has spent over 40 years studying science, religion, and the science of life. He lives and works in Illinois in the field of information technology. And he's back with us on This Week in America. Robert Maxxim, author of the critically acclaimed Legacy series. Robert, welcome to the program. It is always great to have you back with us.
I'm pleased to be back. Thank you.
This is such an interesting series, and we ask for listener questions, and during the course of the program, we will talk about some of those and encourage you, if you go to the website, thisweekinamerica.us, there's an area there where you can get in contact with the program and give us questions for Robert's next visit on the program. It's been a while since we actually talked about the Legacy series, and we've had some people questioning and asking about that and what it's based on, and it's 5 episodes. Talk a little bit about the series and where you can get information on the series and buy the books.
Oh, well, sure. It's actually 5 episodes. Each of them is chronologically ordered. So the 5 books were actually conceived about 40 years ago. And I've been working on them ever since. And of course, every time that something new happens, I almost think about maybe coming up with a 6th episode.
Oh, yes. You could easily do that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been at it since I was about 5 years old with all the experiences I've had. The books are really a representation of everything that I have learned and experienced over the years. I'm coming up on a lot of them by now. Let me talk a little bit about the episodes. The first one is an exposure, an introduction to alien customs, their living patterns or beliefs. Gets into reincarnation, Lemuria, Atlantis, and their technology as well. Episode number 2 describes the roots of our legacy, basically how we came to be, what happened, why are we here, the events that led to our existence on planet Earth today. Episode 3 talks about our early development as inhabitants of Earth in a continent known to some as Lemuria. Episode number 4 talks about the height of the Lemurian civilization, eventually becoming an evil colony on this planet and attacking other solar system worlds, and eventually leading to the destruction of planet Mars. The 5th and final episode talks about our role as spiritual beings and what we can expect to see and be in the future if we follow the pattern of study of the science of life. Now, the books are available on Amazon under the name Robert Maxxim, and also can be ordered through my website, which is rgaetan.com.
And that's GAETANRGAETAN.com. And you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to Robert's website. And Maxxim is Maxxim. Talking about the Legacy series, and really this has it all. We're talking science, spirituality, action, romance, tragedy, the truth. You really touch all bases in this. There's something there for everybody, pretty much, isn't there?
There is. You want to find it, it's going to be in there.
It's an excellent series. It's very, once you start reading, it's tough to put it down. You finish one episode, you're going to want to get on to the next episode, and hopefully the episode number 5 will not be the final episode in the Legacy series. I can see your mind working as we're talking that, okay, you've got enough material there for number 6. Some of the neat things, and if you follow, which I do on Facebook, you had three photos up there recently that were really interesting. This was the eastern coastline of Atlantis?
Well, I was working on episode number 3, and there was a section in episode 3 that talked about Atlantis and uh, a lifetime that I lived where I was not a very good person. And I finally had several dream visions of it, and I was able to nail down precisely what I was, precisely what the epoch, the times were, what was going on. And basically, there were many factions in Atlantis. Of course, there were the good guys and not the not so good guys. And the not so good were going around lying to people, giving them false doctrines, and trying to get them to join them and fight off the teachers of truth, of light, posing as if they were the true teachers of light. And these pictures show the beginning of a rebellion or a revolution in Atlantis that, after several thousands of years of struggle, eventually led to the destruction of the continent. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Yes, and if you would like to see the YouTube version of this, if you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, you can link on directly to our YouTube channel, and you can see exactly what we're talking about in the pictures. They're available. They're extremely graphic, and these what came to you in a sleep time vision.
Yes, and all I can say is that I was in the crowd on the left side. Those are not the very nice guys. The teachers are, of course, on the right side, and they are trying to say, well, all you have to do is know yourselves. If you would only do that, you will find the answers you need. And the ones on the left are trying to take over the continent and eventually, create an empire out of Atlantis. And that was the struggle there. The beings on the right were not from this world. They were very advanced teachers and beings that had donated their lives to help the people of Earth. And look what we did with it. So it was only just a couple of thousand years before Atlantis sunk. And the beings on the left were the ones that caused its destruction.
It's a very colorful, like I said, vivid. You've got to see the pictures and here. What do we see here? Because this once again is a very stunning photograph.
This would be the Atlantean coastline of Garden City, or the capital city of Atlantis. The coastline had kind of an Athenian look to it, and as you progressed into the city, it was more of a metropolis type. This was a center for meditation, a lot of lakes, a lot of temples where you could relax, talk to teachers, present them with your personal problems, get some help. It was really geared towards inner knowing, inner realization, advice, counseling, spirituality, always striving to be more on the positive side of life and learn to work out your problems instead of edging yourself towards anger and fear and things of that nature. So the next picture, if I can get it going here.
And again, all of this you'll find at the website, thisweekinamerica.us, and go to the YouTube channel. What do we see here?
This is inside of that section, kind of a close-up on one of the temples. Okay. In the back, you see, those are not power generation towers, but they are retransmitters. The generation towers were deeper into the city, but these actually redirect the wireless energy flowing through the city. And one more. This final picture is looking towards the west in one of the garden esplanades. It had a very tropical scene because it was in the tropics, just off the island of Guadeloupe in the lower Antilles.
I mentioned that this came in a sleep time vision. Do you have like a notebook? Because I get the impression this happens on an ongoing basis. Do you get up in the middle of the night and write down your notes while they're still fresh in your mind?
And draw the pictures as best as I can, yes.
Yeah.
Then first thing in the morning, I am on the phone with my friend Rodrigo in Mexico, and I tell him, I saw this, and this is what it looked like. I send him sample pictures, and by the end of the day, he has it all drawn. The guy's a master.
That is amazing, and he does such an excellent job. And a lot of this information available at Robert's website. and I say Gaetan, you say it much better than I do, GAETAN.com. Information there. The book's available at Amazon as well. At Robert Maxxim, Maxxim is the author. A lot of great information there, and allow plenty of time when you go to the website and look around, because it's like, wow, there really is a lot of information here. The main character in the Legacy series is a geologist on Mars, Bill Sullivan. In that first Legacy series, you talk about, from the book, his heart must also change by facing horrible deeds he committed in past lives he now ignores. We've talked about that several times. Is that sort of a common denominator for all of us? We've got baggage and we need to go back, and you've talked about that, and address maybe some horrible things that you've done in the past.
Yeah, that is correct, and I'm not ashamed anymore of talking about it. I've had to face them and work it out, and one of the reasons I have written the books is to even mention it more so, because by exposing it, other people that may have been either involved with myself or that were on the receiving end can now realize what happened, and not only can I help myself, but I can help others get out of those memories. Until you realize what those memories are, they will continue to haunt you. And most individuals don't realize that a lot of the desires, the likes, the dislikes, the fears, the mental illnesses they have, fear of water, fear of height, whatever it may be, it's due to these memories that are haunting there. I mean, you're standing in a balcony on the second floor, and you feel like you're going to dive over. Well, nobody is diving you over. You're not falling. Then why do you have this feeling? It's not a mental disease. It is a memory from the past. And all of these fears that we have come from there. It is very important, though, that in order to work with these principles, you have to understand the principles, because you could wrongly diagnose
yes.
a problem. So one of the things you have to watch out for is your ego. Your ego wants to heal the problem. It wants recognition for itself. It wants to do the least work possible to feel good. Well, knowing your past is not as important as knowing yourself. And also, a lot of individuals that want to have the ability to see the past, to have visions, to travel to other planets, to talk to alien beings, well, sometimes you can't give the ego everything that it wants. You have to remember that we are threeform. We are a lower self, a consciousness, and a higher self. The higher self knows what you've been. The higher self is the one that sent you down here to deal with your lower self and work it out. But it's not going to tell you everything until it's right time. So if you have this etching desire, well, I want this, I want that, I want that, this I want thing is not necessarily the best thing for you. You're probably feeding your ego, and that's setting you back in evolution.
Right.
So
what does it feel like when you reach the point where you obviously have, because you seem like you're really at peace with yourself, with the world, that life is like very enjoyable for you? How long did it take you to get to that point, to understand all these principles? And then what's it feel like when you finally feel, I know who I am now, and I'm good with that?
Well, I'm constantly rediscovering myself. Infinity is what it is. Life is infinite. So you never really reach a stage where you say, I got it. And peace is relative to knowledge. So the more you know, the more truth you accept about yourself and the universe around you, the better you're going to fit in with infinity. It's kind of like, imagine that you go to a dance, okay?
Yes.
And you don't know how to dance. So how are you going to fit into the party? You're going to be out in the corner. You're not. Nobody's going to pay attention to you. You're going to, your head down. But if you knew how to dance, or if there was a number that, oh yeah, I know how to do that number, you liven up. All of a sudden, you participate.
Right.
So your participation in infinity is relative to your understanding thereof. So if individuals don't feel right with themselves, number one, maybe there's something they need to know about themselves. They have to be very dead honest about it. And number two, it's not good to dwell on the negative either. Because if you're dwelling on the negative all the time, how are you ever going to figure out what's wrong? Again, the answers come from above. And if you feel negative, if you feel withdrawn, then you're closing the door, you're closing the channel, and you can't get any answers. So reaching a state of peace can be relative to every individual. What's going on in their heart, what's going on in their mind, and what they really want. It's very important that we have to know what we want and who we are. And what we want is to become spiritual beings free of the lower self. And who we are beings that have two sides to us. We have a lower side and we have a higher side. And while we're conscious in this world, what we're trying to do is teach that lower self how to behave, put it in order.
Right, right. Robert Maxxim, our guest on the program, that's Maxxim, author of the Legacy series. A lot that we talk about in the program you will find. It's his story, the Legacy series. 5 episodes available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Information at Robert's website, which is rgaetan, GAETAN.com. Our website, thisweekinamerica.us, will give you a link to get directly there. Time going by way too quickly. A couple of questions. And again, if you're listening, if you're watching, go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, where it's got comments. Give us your question, and we'll talk about it with Robert the next time out. And these are questions that really have repeated themselves, a number of listeners across the country. Number one, are we finally beginning to realize we are not alone?
Absolutely. Yes, we are. And not only realize, but also accept the fact that there is truth out there, and that truth that has been withheld from us. And there's something else that we should consider. In the infinity of it all, and where we have been over various lifetimes, it's very likely, especially in Atlantis, as you have seen, we have met people from other worlds. So naturally, now in this life, that memory is going to come forward, and it's going to make us inquire, are there people on other planets? Because we have met them before. And there's also another twist to it. Some of us have lived on other worlds, where we were at that point the visitors. So we have played both roles, being visited and being the visitors.
The other question that keeps coming up, and it sort of like dovetails with what you're talking about, how do I know where I came from? And you were just talking about that it'd be fascinated for us to find out. And there's sort of this envy that I want to do what Robert does. How can I be willing and get to this point where I get these visions, these visits, where I can find out more about myself? How do we go about? How can someone go about that?
I used to ask myself that question. Let's see, how old am I? 40 years ago. I had no idea. Even when I was seeing these things, I was not focused on the fact that it was. I could say that a lot of individuals are having these experiences that they don't even realize it. But who we are, if you look at the infinite, everything is energy. The infinite is energy, oscillating energy. The atoms, electromagnetism, the soul is energy, water, trees, everything is. This is why we're brothers and sisters, because we're all a part of infinity. So we are energy within energy within energy within energy. Memories are energy. They're never forgotten. So once you start thinking that everything is energy, then you realize some thoughts can be a lower type of energy than some other higher thoughts. Why we have to have a lower self to work out? Because we're working out those lower energies, teaching them and prepping them up. So where do we come from? We come from infinite intelligence, living energy. We are part of the infinite, and we shall forever be part of the infinite. And one day we're going to be a lot closer, soul-wise, than we ever thought possible. And that unity is our future.
Couple minutes left in the program. You said something here that was interesting. A lot of us probably have had visions, have had maybe the visits, depending on your definition, and they don't realize it. How
Right.
can we turn that to we're having them and we realize it? How do we do that? Do we need to maybe keep a dream log, that type of thing, and try to understand exactly what we're dreaming about and its relevance?
That would not be a bad idea. Actually, Dr. Norman, who founded the Unarius teachings, once taught us how to keep a daily registry. And it was a workout sheet. On one side of the sheet, you would at the end of the day, you would write down the good things that happened to you. On the other side, you would try to remember everything bad, the bad things you thought, the things you'd like to overcome, etc. So you have good and bad. You do that every night before going to sleep. And, after a couple of weeks, you've now started being conscious of yourself, of your own thoughts. And, the bad side begins to go down. And your clarity of the good as well improves. And now you begin to see things differently. You interpret thoughts differently. And that is the process of knowing yourself. Again, if you don't know yourself, you cannot step out and see anything further than that.
That's what it all comes back to, isn't it?
Exactly. You have to know yourself. And the ego is what blocks you. You have to overcome that selfishness. And people say, well, what's wrong with protecting myself? What's wrong with having ego? Well, you need the ego in this dimension. But you have to watch out that it does not rule your life. You have to rule it.
It is always a fascinating discussion that goes by way too quickly, as was the case on today's program. Robert Maxxim, our guest on the show. He is the author of the Legacy series. Maxxim is spelled M-A-X-X-I-M. The Legacy series is available at Amazon. The website for Robert is very simple. It's rgaetan, Gaetan.com. You mentioned Unarius. The website there is unariusunited.com. A lot of great information there as well.
Indeed.
Robert, it is always a pleasure to have you with us on the program. Learned something today. Got more questions. We'll get to those next time. And if you have any questions, just go to the website, thisweekinamerica.us, and be sure to find the comment section there and give us your question for Robert. We'll talk about it on a future program. Robert, thank you so much for being with us on the program. As always, time went quickly and an excellent program. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're listening to This Week in America. All the information on our guest, Robert Maxxim, at the website, thisweekinamerica.us.